I asked FPL experts for their best transfer recommendations for Game Week 10, and this is what they came up with. And starting off today's video, our first expert, FPL Cam, has recommended Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa. If you want to take part in future videos like this, go into the link in the description, follow me on Twitter, and when I put a tweet out asking for experts' opinions, get yourself involved and you can be included in videos like this. Also, any experts kind of recommendations, their channels and Twitter will be linked in the description as well, so go and check out them, all making fantastic content within the FPL community. But let's get into our first pick. It is Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa, and over the past 5 game weeks, this man has been on fire, hasn't he, ladies and gentlemen? 4 goals, 37 points, absolutely ridiculous value for 5.5 million. If you had the balls to go for him and put him in your team, fair play, because it has massively worked out. With the good fixtures as well coming up for Aston Villa, you definitely want to be looking to bring in maybe 1 or 2 extra potential Villa players. Maybe you've got Matty Cash and Watkins and you're looking for that third one. I know Diaby, quite a lot of people have him, and he hasn't really been cooking in terms of the points. I think the performances are there. It's just that kind of like that final touch or that final kind of pass that is just letting down his game. And sometimes not even him. Ollie Watkins squandered a huge opportunity from one of his passes yesterday. So, you know, he would have arguably been one of the players that people potentially were looking at. Now, with Douglas Luiz getting 2 goals yesterday, he's kind of in the main limelight, and people are kind of clambering towards him. And for me personally, I wouldn't be recommending him. Like, I know he's done extremely well, and I know he's picked up the points, but I just can't get behind the player who sits so deep at times, doesn't really get involved too much in open play. I know he scored 1 goal from open play yesterday, but his other goals have been from the spot. If you look at his non-penalty expected goals, it's 0.9. There's not too much to write home about. 0.24 XA as well. Yes, the good fixtures are there, but realistically, how many penalty goals is he going to get? Like, probably maybe like 1 if you're lucky over this time period. If he gets another one, great. But I think longer term, the points are going to start to diminish for Luiz. I think he's had that good run, scored some good goals, scored from the spot as well, but realistically, I don't think it is going to continue in terms of the long term. I think he might be a good enabler if you're on a wild card. 5.5 million. Maybe you haven't got enough to stretch to Anthony Gordon, or maybe this move allows you to do some cool things like get Salah, get Watkins, maybe even get Kieran Trippier as well in there. If that does allow you to do that, then I definitely think, you know, he's a good enabler. But I still think I would be prioritising other Villa assets over potentially going for Douglas Luiz. So I'm not agreeing with my first expert on this one. I think he's a good enabler, but I wouldn't be recommending him if I was just looking for a free transfer for this week. I think there's better options to go for from the Villa side. Our next expert, FPL LAD, has recommended Ollie Watkins, and this one already, we don't even have to say anything, it's getting the seal of approval. I know a few game weeks ago, people were potentially umming and ahhing, then he went and had that mega score against Brighton, and since then has just continued to pick up constant points. A goal and an assist for him against, who did they play yesterday? It was West Ham. A goal and assist for him with West Ham. The next 3 fixtures for Aston Villa as well are absolutely delicious. Obviously in game week 13 they do take on Tottenham, but the form that they're in at the moment, you know, it's gonna be a tasty game, and you imagine Watkins is going to be involved. Bournemouth as well in game week 14, so definitely like a 4 to 5 game week hold, and with not many 2 other forwards kind of delivering at the moment, I definitely think Watkins does stand out amongst kind of the forward community. 5 goals, 5 assists in his past 5 game weeks. He is massively overachieving on his XG and his XA, but he just seems to be in that kind of purple patch, and sometimes when players get into this groove, it doesn't really matter what the underlying data looks like, because they just seem to have an edge of kind of confidence where they are just putting away chances that usually they'd miss, or they wouldn't even get into that position. If he was able to get himself back on penalties as well, that would be the absolute dream. It does look like Douglas Luiz has potentially got them nailed down, but over the international break there was a quote from Unai Emery saying that maybe Watkins could see himself back on a few penalties. Maybe if he gets, you know, a lucky one, or Douglas Luiz misses the next one, if we can get him on penalties as well, I think he is an amazing asset for 8.3 million as well. The fixtures coming up, Luton at home. I watched the highlights back of the Nottingham Forest Luton game. The fact that Chris Wood nearly scored 4 goals against them highlights how important I think Ollie Watkins is going to be this week. Like, if a player of that calibre, you know, no offence to Chris Wood, not really Premier League quality, can get 2 goals and should have even had more against Luton, what is a quality player in top form like Ollie Watkins going to do against them? Everything came down the middle. They were so direct from the air as well. They were really struggling at the back, Luton. So I definitely think Ollie Watkins could be feasting against Luton. And then the same goes with Game Week 11. Nottingham Forest away. Obviously, they conceded 2 against Luton, so anything could happen in that game. But definitely for me, the FPL lad has picked a top quality pick here in Ollie Watkins. I don't think there's too much to say. I would highly recommend going and getting Ollie Watkins for your team in Game Week 10. FPL Hive is our next expert, and he has recommended, or she, I'm not gonna assume gender, but you know, this is an FPL community video, and you know, most of it's men. But he has recommended Pedro Neto as our next potential transfer for this game week. Now, for me personally, I feel like the Pedro Neto hype train is kind of going to come to an end in the next few weeks. Obviously, over the past 5 has been incredible. 4 assists, 1 goal. I really wish I went for him on the game week 8 wildcard. I didn't. I went DRB. And now I'm looking a little bit silly with egg on my face. And maybe I'm going to look silly saying that this isn't a good pick. But for me, personally, I think maybe on a wild card, yes, I would be tempted. There are some good fixtures mixed in with the bad. Obviously, as you can see, the top 3 on screen. Newcastle at home, not really a positive fixture. Sheffield United away, tick. Spurs at home, no, not really. But then it's Fulham, great. Then Arsenal, and then Burnley and Nottingham Forest. So I definitely think he is a good enabler to have, but you need to have a strong bench where he can kind of just drop in and out of the side when those difficult fixtures do arrive. But he does seem to be the main man for Wolves this season, and they are playing some of the worst defences in the league. It's just whether or not Game week 10, I wouldn't be like absolutely clamouring to get him in with Newcastle at home. I think if I'm on a wild card, maybe I look at him as a potential enabler. Obviously, we spoke about one already in Douglas Luiz. You've also got Anthony Gordon as well, who is a fantastic prospect at that kind of 5 to 6 million price range as well. And I do think Pedro Neto does fit in that. So maybe if I was on a wild card, yes, I potentially would consider him, but I would have to have good depth to rotate around the Spurs, the Newcastle and the Arsenal fixtures. But for a solitary transfer for this week, I just don't think it is quite something I would be recommending. But FPL Hive has recommended him as a potential transfer, but it doesn't get the FPL Tom seal of approval. Moving on to our next transfer recommendation. This one has come from FPL Plug. Like I said, all the content creators, all their links to all their stuff will be in the description. So go check them out. Go support the FPL community. He has recommended Gabriel, a player I am very, very hot on this week. Someone that I'm potentially looking at bringing into my own side to potentially replace Sven Botman with the good fixtures for Arsenal coming up and him kind of warranting and putting himself back in that side, slotting so nicely next to Saliba. And the Arsenal defence keeping plenty of clean sheets, low XG conceded as well. I definitely think it does make sense. Maybe you went with Botman like me on the wildcard, or maybe you are looking for a good defender on your Game Week 10 wildcard. Then I think Gabriel is a very, very smart option, to be honest. Sheffield United, Newcastle not the greatest, but then it's Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton and Aston Villa as kind of a next 5 to 6 after that. So definitely some really positive fixtures in there. It does look like he is back to being potentially nailed within that Arsenal side. It seems since he's kind of restored him, Arteta has restored him back into the side, then their form has picked up, the performances have picked up as well, and their defensive ability as well has improved. I don't think you're going to expect too much in terms of expected goals or expected assists from him. It's very much going to be on the clean sheets. I know in previous seasons, like last year, he had the highest XG among defenders. Doesn't quite look to be living up to the same expectations. I think maybe they've changed something around on set pieces, or maybe he's just not had, you know, the bigger opportunities that he did last season, So I definitely think I wouldn't be expecting too much in terms of attacking output, but in terms of clean sheets and positive fixtures, Arsenal definitely have the potential for them, and I do think Gabriel is a very, very smart pick. So this one is getting the FPL Tom seal of approval, so thank you FPL Plug. And our final expert of today's video is Golden Goal Fantasy Football, a very good personal friend of the channel. Go and check out his content because it is absolutely amazing and he deserves all the subscribers that he is getting. Like me, he's chasing down 2,500 subs, so if you want to go and help him out and help me out as well, it would be massively appreciated. He has recommended Saka, and I think this is, again, a very good pick. We spoke about in the last section the really good fixtures that are coming up for Arsenal, and Saka, he is the key man for Arsenal, isn't he? He is the danger man for Arsenal, the highest point scorer, the potential maybe penalty taker when he decides not to gift them to Martin Odegaard. That's the only kind of downside you have around him. But it looks like that international break, kind of actual break for him, not playing any fixtures, has done him the world of good. Picked up an assist against Chelsea. Now with positive fixtures coming up for Arsenal, a lot of us want to be kind of rotating off Spurs players like Son and Maddison. This is being filmed before that game. Maybe, you know, they've absolutely smashed it and we don't want to do that. But with their fixtures turning, I think longer term, we're definitely going to be looking back towards people like Saka. Now that he's back at his starting price as well of 8.5 million, still got super high ownership as well. So he's definitely going to be an EO rank destroyer if he starts to slap in these next few fixtures. You're looking at that Sheffield United one, great fixture for game week 10, potential differential captaincy shout. Then Burnley in game week 12, yet to keep a clean sheet so far in the Premier League. So again, another team I would be looking to target if I was, you know, playing for fixtures, which I do in terms of FPL. So definitely Saka for me is a very, very strong contender for a potential top transfer target. I'd probably say Watkins is number one. Then you're probably looking at Saka and then maybe like Gabriel. Those would be the players that I would definitely be identifying this week. Like I said, we're all trying to potentially get off that Spurs hype train. You know, some of us might be even double or triple. I'm in a position where I'm triple Spurs. So I'm definitely going to be looking to remove one of Maddison or Son, depending on tonight's performance and depending how, like, you know, they do over the next few fixtures. So definitely Saka is in my mind as a potential transfer target. Those were all our 5 FPL experts picks. Let me know which ones I've potentially or the experts have convinced you to take a punt on this week. If you've got any dilemmas as well ahead of game week 10, also get them in the comments and we'll try to answer as many as possible. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoy the rest of your day.